my beautiful gooseneck rocker, antique gooseneck rocker, and I want to show you the materials that went into this project. So I'll start with the webbing. This is a jute webbing, natural, that we use for the bottom of the chair. We have coil springs, metal coil springs that are attached to the webbing and are hand tied with jute twine. Specifically, it's called a ruby twine, very specific to tying springs. And then we have burlap that goes over the springs. By the way, we 8-way tie our springs. Each tie has 8 ties. Each spring has 8 ties on it. And then we have batting, cotton batting. We have edge rolls that we use. Specifically in this chair, we've used a small edge roll for the front of the seat. All of these ingredients make for a beautiful job. To finish off this piece with our fabric, we used the double piping. And this is what a double piping looks like before the upholstery is put on it. This is the double piping here. It's probably the only modern thing on this chair, modern treatment. Usually this chair is old enough to have what we call gimp used to braid it out or to frame it out. So now that's pretty much all of the material other than the fabric that we used on our gooseneck rocker. So what I want to try to do is explain through the tools today what it takes to develop a skill to use these tools, to use the tools and the materials to create a beautiful project like the gooseneck rocker here. Now let's take a look at the tools that we used in the gooseneck rocker. So I'm going to start with the stripping tools that we use commonly in upholstery. Of course, all upholsterers have different tools that they use, but these are my favorite tools, and I've been doing this 40 years, so I would suggest these tools. They're smaller than the upholstery tools that we use, and you'll see that in a minute. But we're going to start with the mallet, a wooden mallet, a good wooden mallet with a good surface area so that when you're hitting a chisel top or a tack remover, you're not looking at where you're hitting, you're looking at the bottom of the tool. And this is a tack remover. This is good for the old tacks. We have tacks and staples usually in most furniture. This is good for the tacks because it has on the bottom, as you can see, you may be able to see, it has a little double prong that gets under the tack. And then this is another tool that we use. This is a chisel, which gives you, if you have a stubborn tack maybe or a bigger tack, an upholstery tack, we use that. Of course, you have to increase the your tapping motion with your wooden mallet as you're using it with bigger tacks. Now for staples, I like using an awl, which is pretty much a pointed screwdriver, and sometimes I use just a flat screwdriver, depending on how stubborn the staple may be, along with my mallet. And now the most important tool in stripping and even upholstering, while I'm reupholstering, will be this diagonal pair of side cutters. And I'm going to turn this one over just so you can see both sides. This is a must in any upholsterer's toolbox, and a good one too, with a good pair of grips on it. And believe it or not, that's just about it for stripping furniture. So now I'm going to show you what we use for upholstery. After we cut our fabric, it has to be applied. And the tools that we use, believe it or not, is pretty much what you see up here. The first thing is a webbing stretcher for the bottom of the chair that I showed you with the webbing, where the springs are attached. We use a webbing stretcher. It has these prongs, and you stretch pretty much the webbing and you tack. Another thing, very important thing that we use a tool is a magnetic hammer. So it has a magnet on one side, and this is your hammer side of the hammer. We use that, and you can go on some of my other YouTube videos to see how we use those. Today we're just explaining a little bit about the tool. And of course, your mallet, your wooden mallet, again, as we used in stripping, we use this a lot too in reupholstering, to try to coax material and batting into shape. And then, very important, a good pair of scissors. I like the old style scissors, and I have many that I use, but there's one favorite that I use. So that's just about it. And of course, not to mention maybe 20 or 30 years of skill that needs to go into these tools to make a beautiful job like that gooseneck rocker. So I just wanted to show you a Clinch It. A Clinch It is a cutting edge technology in upholstery. It actually is about 90 or 100 years old, and that's cutting edge in upholstery. I wanted to show you this specific tool because it does speed you up a little bit. It anchors springs in, and it has a trigger right here, and it has these clinchets that come down. You pull the trigger and it goes over the rung of the spring onto the webbing. It's a kind of a neat tool, and you'll see also in some of my other YouTube videos how this is used. An essential part to any traditional upholstery shop or modern upholstery shop, in my opinion, are needles. Although a lot of modern shops that you go into, you may not see some of these needles. I do want to show you a regulator. That's an essential needle in any upholsterer's toolbox. This is a German needle. A lot of people probably don't know what that is. It's also called a button needle. That could be a clue as to what it's used for. And then we have these other straight button needles for putting buttons in. We have twine. This is a hand stitching twine for these needles, which are curved needles. And we use that to sew up outsides and to put edge rolls on. Of course, a tape measure. And these are upholstery pins. Upholstery pins are also an essential part of holding fabric steady while you're working it. This is another form of a regulator. And then of course T-pins. You can see that. T-pins are an essential part of upholstery to secure outsides. And of course I have this bag full of horsehair stuck on the wall to put all my needles in. And that's about it. Thanks for checking out the Upholstery on Broadway channel, and don't forget to subscribe, please.